Today we are at the Kurukshetra University and we are with Professor LA from Belarus. Sir, as I have seen your profile, you are Associate Professor of History there in your country, but you have interest in Indic studies and Indian culture, and you have written a book on Rig Vedic priesthood. So this shows that despite of your main studies in history, you are pursuing your interest in Vedas also. So can you tell a little bit about this, how this interest develops?
Wow. Uh, Actually, we have the very long time tradition in Belarus in studying the Oriental history from the early beginning of the scripture uh, inventing. And while all the sources that were written once should be researched during the historical studies and should be properly used for reconstruction or writing the history of the past. So India plays here probably one of the prominent roles because it has very ancient written tradition and has a lot of scriptures uh, came from the very early past and probably from the so-called Indo-European world. India is one of the two major players of the ancient history times, and so that's why we always have this interest to Indians history and to Vedas in particular as the earliest sources. And we use it for textbooks, even for school children. And now the situation in Indian history regarding the last archaeological researches of the recent decades and the situation with the development of human uh, species development and human species spreading in the ancient times, and the question of ancient people origin and ancient people interconnection in between make India one of the central figures in the ancient history since at least the third millennium BC, maybe even much earlier, like fifth millennium BC, but we don't have enough proof to do it now to perform all the necessary procedures now.
Sir,
So well, India is the main focus of the ancient history, as Mesopotamia, as Egypt, and even somehow for Belarusian land, it has probably more interesting
Sir, do you think that
to attract.
studying Vedic scriptures will help you in studying not only ancient Indian history, but also some connectivity to Belarus history also?
Yeah, we do have the research is not only in language that was traditional thing because of Indo-European affiliation of Belarusian language. And we have these things like a common Indo-European um, legacy, and Sanskrit plays here definitely the serious role. But also it is the cultural interconnection and some sort of cultural similarity and some sort of cultural dialogue in between their lands of Belarusian traditions, and we have very old tradition of pre-Christian times, and some things are very interesting even from the Indian point of view, and some uh, for instance, ornamentations and archaeological findings regarding the symbols are interesting, and that's the Indian part might be of serious use to understand our own
So, is
past.
there any example or short example you can quote?
Like, for instance, on the way of symbols, since the early times we can find like since the BC period we have the swastikas. And in the traditional Belarusian armament, we have a lot of swastika features that are probably even more spread than in India now,
Okay.
uh, even till now. Well, for instance, that's like an example that might be understandable even for every Indian.
Okay.
So we have the sun carved, the sun ornamentation, developed in most holidays of Belarusian tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And this ornamentation had the depicturing like of solar eclipses, equinoxes, solstices. So we have a lot of things to be compared to Indian tradition and to say if there are, how much is it different and how much is similar.
So have you ever been to India before?
This is probably my seventh or eighth
Okay.
time in India.
So you are very much now blend with Indian culture because of it's your seventh visit,
Yeah,
and
not.
you can relate it to.
I cannot say that I am too much related to Indian culture, but just because India is a big center of research,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm in Indian studies, so I need to be inside India to participate in the scientific dialogue we have. So it's important side of any work of researching, doing any studies of
And I
India,
think
not only India.
and I think it is very much important. Like you are studying and teaching Indian studies and Indic studies, so it is very much important to at least visit India. So you are blessed with that. I think so.
Yeah, sure. It's important thing in not only for Indian studies,
Mm.
but for cultural dialogue and for mutual sharing of ideas
Mm-hmm.
in between the different scholars of the entire world,
Mm.
and for better understanding between people, and I would say for creation of the better world.
Okay. We are thankful to you, sir, for such a nice interview, and thank you. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much. My pleasure.